Okay, well, we're trying again. If you had been paying, if you came on a little bit earlier, you would have noticed that nothing was working because nothing was working. Um, because there were updates while I was gone last week, and then when I get back, it's not working. So now it sort of is. Okay, what I can say is that it's sort of working. It keeps. Oh my. I guess I'll just leave it like that. There were updates, and now it wants to tell me what's new and new tabs and all this other stuff that I don't want. Um, but what I do want is, it's sort of there, but it's really intrusive. I have to say it's very, very intrusive, and um, I don't have my chat screen. And I was told it's really easy to get it, but no, it's not there. Well, it's Monday, and I was gone for a week, and I'm trying to get things working again. And if I move this, I know if I move it, it's going to just mess it up. Yep, it did. I have no idea why it's doing that. Why it just keeps. I'll just have to live with it for the moment. Okay, well, it's Monday. I was gone last week. I had the opportunity to take a trip to Chicago for a week, and I did. And I got this sweatshirt, went to the museum, Natural History Museum, and saw the dinosaurs, including Sue. So I bought a sweatshirt that said Sue on it with a T-Rex. So there. So you'll see little bits of it under the vest because I wear that because it's cold. Um, so when I started all of this up this morning, the chat screen was working fine. The screen that I look at to see if I've got stuff on camera or not was working fine. And then I found that it wasn't streaming because it wasn't connected to the internet because there was an update, and the update didn't finish, and then I had to restart everything, and now the things that were working aren't working, very well at all. The other thing is that after being gone for a week, I got back and, um, I've been knocking things over all morning. It's been one of those days where I try to reach over and pick something up, like if I reach over now that way, and I pick up the mouse so it's not in the way and I move it, I'm almost certain to knock over the water. Because I already did that this morning. I was reaching for something and I bumped into the microphone and the microphone fell into the brush cleaning water and it spilled. Fortunately, it was just water. So I was planning to do some things today that were kind of delicate that required good focus and all of that, but I think I'd better not. I really shouldn't touch anything that could be broken or damaged really. It's just pretty amazing how clumsy I am today. And it seems that each time I do clumsy thing, it gets worse. I bumped into something earlier, you know, and it didn't fall over or anything, and I bumped into something else and it just slid, and now I bumped into something and it spilled water. So it's almost as though, mm, yeah, it's almost as though things are going to escalate during the day. So I'm just going to have to be really careful. I wish the chat screen would come back. If somebody comes in on chat, I'm not going to be able to read it. And I was told, oh, it's just right there. Just click that. And supposedly on Chrome, but all I get is a screen inviting me to do things that I'm not interested in. Well, let me try again here. Well, at least that went away. Hmm, we'll see if it pops up. It might. You never know. Sometimes things do work. Ah, oh, the chat room came back, but oh, okay. Well, that's not too bad. Here it is. It's only 18 after 10, and I managed to get things working. Well, that's pretty shocking. We'll see how the rest of the day goes. But yes, I know I didn't tell anybody. I didn't announce on the stream that I was going to be gone last week because it all came up over the weekend after I had already concluded Friday's stream, right? So that was over, and because it was over, I wasn't able to tell anybody because you know it was over. So I'm trying to put some paint away. I'm trying to keep things sort of clean, but I don't know why. There it is. It's supposed to be up here. I guess. No, that's supposed to be there instead. Okay. Well, yeah. What I'm going to end up doing is having to just like rearrange the colors again so I can find them when I need them. Okay. Well, I'm working on this Ford Shelby GT350. This thing. I'm trying to show it to you on the camera here. There. And I'm going to paint it blue with a white stripe. And I don't know if it's going to end up. I don't know how well it's going to end up looking. I guess we'll find out. I've made a. Oh, this is going to be a dangerous thing to do, but I'm going to try. Okay, I'm going to show to you that I have actually completed some stuff on this model. See if I can open this box and not break anything that's inside of it. Here, I've got the engine and the bottom of the car. I've got the seats. I was able to do the chrome bits on the seats. I've got the radiator. Okay, and one of the braces. This this and turn this over. See the bottom of the car. Right, there's pretty good detail on that you can't make out because of the way the thing works here. But it is. You'll have to trust me that there's detail there that you can see. Um, so far, that's come out okay, and I'm keeping it in this box so that it doesn't get broken, I guess. But then the box is in the way, so there's that. Oh, okay. I'm going to digress. I'm going to pull out this box. This has nothing at all to do with the Ford, but it has to do with maybe something I can use if I've kept it. I don't know. I was working on this at the very end of 2025. No, I guess I don't have it. This guy had red beady eyes, and I was thinking, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm rooting through the box here. I was thinking what I could do. I don't know what that thing is supposed to be. Is that I could use the excess plastic from the red beady eyes and shape it for the tail lights because tail lights. No, this is the Fink I was working on. See, it was coming along okay. I needed some, I needed to do some washing on the gray, and I've got some work to be done on some of the hair at the top and in the ears. Why is there? And then there's flaws in the paint, whatever. But there was these little eyes. They came out. They were clear red, red beady eyes, and they came on some red sprue that I was thinking I could carve out taillights so that I didn't just paint them on. But if I can't find the little red beady eye sprue, which I thought I kept it, but if I can't find it, then I can't use it. And if I can't use it, then that idea isn't going to work. It's just going to be kind of a cascade of failure. Um, kind of. So what I've got in this box is the top of the car, the body of the car, that is painted black on the inside, and it's going to be painted blue on the outside, and it's all taped up, so I can take the tape off today. I can probably do that without causing any harm. And the other thing is I can do here's a here's a whole bunch more parts. Okay. I've got the dashboard actually looks pretty, it doesn't look too bad. I might do a little bit more on that. Okay, see it? You got the details, not horrible. I think I think I'm just gonna put that in the completed parts box here. See if I can do that without hurting anything. Now here, let's see how it fits. No, it's supposed to go in there, but it's not. I'll have to worry about that later. I'll just leave it in here. Why is there a white? That's just flaw in the paint. What a mess. Okay, I'm gonna have to do a touch up on that. Well, there's tape on here too that I'm gonna take off. The rest of the other side of the dashboard needs to be painted with. There's detail here and here, but that part I'm putting there. In here is a part that was broken once, and I don't want to break it again. The steering wheel turns out to be flawed because of mold marks. I'm going to work on that today. And then I've got the here. See what I'm talking about. Got the tires and the wheels, and I'll probably try to work on that too. Well, The first things I'm gonna do, if I'm gonna do anything at all today, I think I'm gonna start by taking the masking off of these pieces so that I can get rid of this box. I'm not gonna, like, throw it away, get rid of it. I mean, just move it somewhere else so I don't have yet another box sitting around. And I'll start with this. You can see the part that's not painted, and that's the tachometer and the oil pressure, and those are gonna be just delicately hand painted to show the detail. And then under here is the radio and the glove compartment. And again, the radio, it's going to be all hand painted, detail painted, so that the hopefully the little dial will show and the chrome buttons. And then on the glove compartment, there's tape on it. The rim of the glove compartment is supposed to be chrome. You can start to see a little bit of it there. And then there's a logo, a Mustang horse logo that needs to be that, and then the rest of it's painted black. So instead of having this nice brush mark free spray painted stuff, I'm going to have to brush paint it there. Well, now this looks pretty scabby, but when I'm done with it, it'll be pretty nice, I hope. So when I start painting this, I'm going to paint the parts that are going to be chromed first. Let me bring this down a little bit. Come on, camera guy. Oh, give me a hand here. The bezels of these gauges need to be painted chrome. The buttons on the radio and the edge, the trim on the glove compartment and the horse logo. And then the rest is black. And then when I paint the silver paint, it'll get onto where the black goes, and then I'll paint the black on, and I'll probably have to go back and forth like I did on this part of the dashboard more than once before it ends up looking okay. But there it is. That's the dashboard. Put that in this box. Let me put it up here somewhere. Okay. Well, I got little bits of sticky tape on my fingers. I'm gonna unmask this. There's a whole lot of tape on here, and eventually, the body will be a stark white color except for all the black. And the stuff that's white will, in time, be painted blue with a white stripe. Masking is amazing, isn't it? As I was When I was masking this, I was talking about how, and I was also talking about whether I don't know if they still exist or not, but I know that they existed back in the day. Was that there were places, auto body paint shops, where you could take your car in, and within a day they would repaint it. And what I was saying as I was doing this is that they were probably able to tape an entire real car, mask the entire real car, all the chrome parts and the headlights and all the parts that they didn't want to be painted. It probably could be done. They probably were able to do that in less time than it took me to put all this masking tape on this. And I'm going to finish this whole thing and paint this blue, and then the edges all around the windows. There's a little raised edge that's supposed to be chrome that will be painted silver, and that will be kind of a challenge to do that without messing up the blue paint. I suppose it'll be possible. I don't, I don't know how possible. I'm just going to say, in theory, not really a theory, hypothetically. Well, that's the better word. Hypothetically, it should be possible for me to paint the chrome trim and do the thing that the auto body places did, which is to then mask the chrome trim after it's been painted silver. I might, I might even try that. Like I said, it's just hypothetically true, which means that it might not be true. It means that there's, it's not impossible. It wouldn't be impossible to do that. It would be extremely difficult to do that. It might be worth a try rather than trying to paint it after the blue paint is on, because then I'll get the silver paint onto the blue paint and the blue paint spray paint, and it just doing touch up with that is really, really difficult. I might, I might at some point in the future, um, just try um, masking the edges of these windows to see if it is in fact possible. Paint the chrome trim first before putting the blue paint on, because it would be a lot easier. Well, I'll explain that in a bit. The door handles and the door locks those need to be painted silver as well after the blue paint is on, because I don't think I could, you know, again, it's not a thing that would be impossible. It would just be almost impossible. So some of the black paint came through here, and I'm going to actually remove that um, by just sanding it lightly or just scraping it off, because even though I'm going to be painting a dark blue, I really do not know if it would be translucent or not. And sometimes if the paint is translucent, a thing like this, um, well, that should be painted. That should be painted the chrome color anyway. But what I was muttering about is sometimes if the spray paint is a little translucent, then something like this, where there's a darker color, where this will actually show, it will show through as a discoloration in the paint. It's the choice I will have to make later, whether I'm gonna try to do things like get rid of these bits here. Well, okay, I don't know how that happened or this. These are just places where the paint spray paint got through the masking. Just a failure. It's a failure. And it seems to be quite a few failures here. Yep. Well, those are failures that need to be the concern about those needs to be dealt with at some future time. But at this time, I'm able to take this box and remove it from the scene. I've got a ball of, it still smells like the paint even after more than a week. Well, there's some other things I can do with this. There's little louvers that go in here on the sides, and those are painted the body color. And I'm going to want to, and if I saw the insides correctly, there was some, I can't find the picture. I want it now. The, which is the back of this, yeah, this is what the radio is supposed to end up looking like. And you can see there's little silver bits. I don't know what those are, but they were not molded very well onto the model. Okay. I kind of just need to turn this around. I need to fix the steering wheel. I need to paint the dashboard. I need to put these wheels together. I think I'm going to work on the steering wheel now. I don't know if you can see it, but even without my head magnifier, I can see that all around the inside of the rim here, there are remnants of the mold seam. Okay. And I don't want to break this. Just hold it here. So I'm going to rub at it with this circular file and see if I can't remove that without messing up the rest of the paint. I'm going to need to repaint, obviously need to repaint the steering wheel, the ivory color. That's another story. Why is it that color? Because that's not how it's going to end up. Oh, it's really, this is going to take a while. So I have to move slowly and carefully here. Some of this would be so much easier if I just did it the way I used to do it when I was a kid. Glue the thing together, throw some paint on it, use the decals. So what happens, and I was able to get it on the outside because that was fairly easy to sand, is that when this thing goes injection molded, when it gets injection molded, plastic, the two halves of the mold don't always fit together very well. And the plastic oozes out between them, creating a little ridge, a seam, and then that makes something that look supposed to look circular look like it's just got a seam on it. And I want to clean that off, and I'm using this file because sandpaper doesn't really work inside of a little, just it just won't work, at least not for me. And I'm not using my head magnifier for this because you know, it's whether or not somebody can actually see it without magnification. When I paint it, I will use my head magnifier, and then I'll go, "Oh, under 2.5 times magnification, it doesn't look that good." This is one way of using up the better part probably of a half hour, um, doing something that is practically invisible. Trying to get the dust particles off of that. So, yes, I had the opportunity last week and came up over the weekend, after the streams. I couldn't tell anybody about it, go to Chicago, and that was good. We got to go to the Field Museum of Natural History and see the dinosaurs and the gems and some of the other exhibits. There was a really interesting exhibit. It was called After the Dinosaurs, which was the period of time that we don't much think about. It was after, right after the asteroid impact that killed off everything, the mass extinction event. Okay. In the next basically 10 million years or so, because the whole planet's all full of dinosaurs, and suddenly, in a matter of minutes, even the climate changed, and things were covered in dust or destroyed in a gigantic tsunami. Okay, so it didn't spend too much time about the devastation. It just said, "Yeah, this is what happened," and a whole bunch of stuff died off. But then what? Okay, then things came back, and it became the age of mammals eventually. But it was just really it was kind of interesting, just I mean, even just to think about the planet recovering from such a disaster. The thing is that the exhibit, as one walked through time, that wasn't even the biggest extinction. I think it was the Permian extinction, one caused by the Siberian lava tarps, traps, yeah, massive volcanic eruptions that just went on for thousands of years and spewed all sorts of gases into the environment and put dust in the air and everything. The, that killed off like 90% of everything that was alive. We almost became a lifeless planet again. But, um, yeah, this seems to happen, periodically as nearly everything gets killed off. Is this on camera? Yeah, it is kind of. What I'm doing is I am trying to make go away the molding, the seam that's left over from the molding process. And I had the steering wheel mostly done, and then I painted it, the base coat paint, and it became really obvious that there was a significant molding seam on the inside of the steering wheel. I'm trying to very carefully make it not there anymore by filing it off. And then obviously, I'll have to repaint the base coat of the steering wheel because to get rid of the plastic, the paint that was on top of it comes off even before the plastic comes off. So the steering wheel and the car is wood, kind of this color. Okay, and I was playing around with different combinations of base coat and wash, and it's this one. I tried different kinds of brown underneath, but they all came out way too dark. But this is ivory with smoky ink wash, and I think the brown would work as well, but I like to do that one. So the paint that's on here is ivory. That's the color. And then I'm going to repaint it, let it dry, and then wash it with this smoky ink wash to make it hopefully look like that. But first, I need to get rid of the mm, sadly obvious um, mold seam. Well, it looks like it's better. So what I've been doing here is having an effect. That is to say that it seems to be changing it in a helpful way. For some reason, it's really bad on this quadrant here. It must have just been the way this part of the mold just didn't seal. Yeah, so, went to the museum, the dino the famous dinosaur there is Sue with the T-Rex, his commemorative sweatshirt I am wearing, which is presented as the largest and most complete Tyrannosaurus rex fossil in the world. And the Field Museum, it's interesting. Things like museums really don't have a lot of money compared to like rich people or corporations. It's apparently where the wealth is. The museums are not, they might have extremely valuable collections, but it's not, usually they were donated, not purchased, because they have very limited budgets to purchase. So there was a corporate sponsor for Sue, and they bought it, and it's up in the museum now, and people can see it instead of it just being hidden away in like a private collection somewhere, which is pretty cool. They did a nice job of displaying it. If you see, skeletons of fossils of tyrannosaurs and other meat-eating dinosaurs like that, one thing that you don't always see is the gastralia, which is it's really a weird thing. Um, and unless you were looking at it, my description of it is just, it's not going to make too much sense. But you know, uh, there's the backbone, of course, right? And the ribs hang down from the backbone, and all the you always see those because that's what gives it its shape. The ribs coming down from the backbone. But these meat-eating dinosaurs have gastralia, which is another set of bones that is kind of a mirror, sort of a mirror image of the ribs, really. And they're along the bottom of the belly, and they're just as complex as the rib system, but they are there. They go along the bottom of the abdomen, the chest and the abdomen, and the gastralia, when they're mounted for the T Rex in their appropriate position, make it make it look chubby. I'll just call it that. It's just much bigger in its chest and belly than you would imagine it to be if all you saw were the ribs. And when Sue was first mounted at the Field Museum, they didn't hadn't put the gastralia on, but then it was remounted in its new home. It has a room of its own. They're in there, and it changed the body profile really significantly. It gives you a very different impression of what the dinosaur looked like. And then they do a really good job of pointing out all of the injuries that the dinosaur had accumulated over its life. So it had at one 9 of its ribs, not all at once, but 9 of its ribs were broken at one point or another during its life, and 8 of them had healed pretty completely at the time that it died. But what what shows up then is where they were broken, that there was, just a clump, I'll call it that. It's a scientific term, a clump of bony tissue that formed around the fracture. So instead of a nice smooth rib, there was just a clump of bony tissue. So that, and then kind of interesting. There was just other injuries too. So the broken ribs could have come either from the thing it was trying to kill and eat, that was fighting back, like it might have been a pretty like a hagosaur or something, plant-eating animal, or they might have come from you know just disagreements between Sue and another tyrannosaur. Don't know. I mean, you can't really tell because all you've got is a healed broken rib. There's no real clue as to how it was broken. No, this is getting. I guess it's much better than it was. It's getting different reflections from where the paint has come off. So it's hard to tell. I'm just imagining that I think it's an illusion, that there's still a seam there, whether it really is. But I want to say that this is about ready to be repainted. So I'll put it back on its little thing here. And that will be repainted. The ivory color. What's kind of interesting with the ivory is that when I paint teeth on a model, like a minifig or something like that, um, usually the ivory looks better than just white, even though it's kind of yellowish. I'm not sure why that is, but it is. But before I paint that, I'm gonna I'm gonna do some see what I mean about bumping into stuff. I'm gonna do some stuff with these wheels and tires. I'm gonna try to put them together. That's the second time I did the same thing. I just lifted up and bumped into the edge of the box. I'm finding that I'm not good with edges anymore. Okay. No, see this wheel is supposed to fit inside the tire, but it hasn't gone in. I was able to get the chrome one in, but this isn't in. And these tires are hard now. They've lost their flexibility over time. I have to be careful. I don't want to push it in too hard because I don't want to crack the tire, which actually happened on the Lotus Ford model. And if I want to pull this out, but like I need to pull it out and start over because it might be this might be I don't know, I might have to sand it, down to make it smaller. Doesn't go in. Let's see, it's in on this side and then the paint is chipped a little bit. Nice. Well, this is supposed to be really easy. The, in fact, they're supposed to be cemented together on the inside of this. They're supposed to be loose enough, but they actually need to be cemented in. Um, but obviously that's not happening. I can't, I don't want to mess with the tire. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to sand the, I'm going to sand the paint off of the wheel and see if I can't, not the whole thing, but just this part here. See if I can't get it to fit better. Or there's always the possibility that there's enough variation in the components of the wheel that if it doesn't go in one tire, it'll go in a different one. That doesn't seem to be happening. Okay, well, I'm gonna do it with this square file. I need to get it way up to the, at least I can tell, where it's done and where it's not because it's white plastic underneath. There's one more thing, you know, that makes something that should take maybe 5 minutes end up taking the better part of an hour, right? It's just it's just that kind of thing. And it's also the kind of thing where just seriously the thickness of the paint, the primer and the overcoat might be enough to keep it from going in. But the way the model is designed, like I said, this was supposed to be loose enough that it actually needed to be cemented, this surface cemented to that surface to hold it in place. But that's not happening. There's a lump there. That doesn't help. So then there's the question like here, do I touch that up? I'm gonna touch it up after these things are put in because, you just carefully paint something and then the assembly process, even if it's been test fit earlier, and I always test fit parts, almost always, unless I forget, in which case it usually is a problem. Um, you test fit them all, and then there's final assembly, and then, "Oh, doesn't fit. It fit when I tested it. Why doesn't it fit now?" I don't know. It's model making curse magic. So I expected this to have taken maybe 10 minutes if I had problems with one of them or something, but I didn't expect to have to spend as much time as I'm spending filing off the paint to get it to fit inside the tire, especially since the instructions said you'll need to cement them into place to hold them into place. That was a lie. Now, if this ends up being a little too loose, that's not too much of a problem because then I can do like the instructions said and just cement it into place. But if it doesn't go in at all, well, it is a problem. Um, yeah, so that was interesting to see the Sioux model with the Australia in place and making it look chubby. Like I said, it makes it look a little bit on the heavy set side, and they're able to use that then to estimate the actual mass or weight of the dinosaur. What's that? A little piece of leftover tape, maybe. Well, let's try this now and see if it's any better. Hmm. Okay, well, answer is yes and no. Okay, that's not the part that's the problem. And definitely try something else. That was probably a waste of time. See, they could go. Uh, See, on the chrome side, on this side, I was able to get it so that the chrome was flush with it inside of the tire. What's happening here is just a real pain in the you know, I painted the wheels and they look really good, but they don't the tire is just too stiff now. It doesn't and I don't wanna just do it so it's just laying on the surface like that. It isn't how it's supposed to be. It needs to be like this where it's inside the tire, and it's not going to do that. These used to be flexible, okay? You could bend them and they'd expand a little bit, but it's not the case anymore. So what I need to do, I really don't wanna do this because it means more painting touch up later on is because this part that's still black, okay, needs to be inside the rim of the edge of the tire like the chrome thing is here. You can see it. It's inset into the tire like it's supposed to be. But this isn't going in, so I'm going to have to make it smaller. So the trouble I went through to paint this turned out to be a waste of time because I need to make it smaller. And even though I'm trying not to scar the paint, I'm going to end up scarring the paint and having to repaint it. So I thought it was here, but it's not. It's out here. It's this. And if I'd really been paying attention to how it was going in, I would have noticed that that was the part that was the problem. And I don't know how much I need to reduce the size to make it fit. I just know that I'm messing up the really nice paint job that I did on these wheels. And then I'm going to have to come back and retouch it all. Oh well. So yes, I was without prior announcement away last week. Went to a nice steakhouse bar kind of restaurant with another family member. We had a good time. Saw a play. That's in, in a bigger city like that is, you not only have just the really giant um, Broadway kind of plays, but you've got smaller um, theater groups and put on their plays in smaller venues, and it was just anyway, it was hilarious. It was just really a lot of fun. And then got to sit around, you know, and just read a book one day. That was kind of nice, just to relax for most of the day. But it's gone Monday through very, very well early, early morning Friday. Got back really early on Friday morning. So didn't do any streaming last week, which means that nothing got done on this car. And now that I am streaming, it looks like pretty much nothing is getting done on this car. And it's just an entire. I'm going to be spending the entire day just undoing stuff that I've already done in an effort to get these wheels to fit. Let's see if this is any better. Shouldn't be any worse because it's smaller now. Certainly see where it's not going in. This is how it's supposed to look here. That's how it's not supposed to look there. Like I said, I don't want to break the tire. Well, that's disappointing. Okay, well, I need to make the whole wheel. I need to make this whole thing smaller. Probably not a lot, but removing the paint wasn't enough. I'm going to try to bevel it as well. I don't know how much needs to come off. I'm just going to go all the way around it. That's what I think is going all the way around it. I should mark it somehow so I know this where I started. I'm probably looking like at a 64th of an inch or tenth of like a 2/10 of a millimeter, a fifth of a millimeter, some tiny little bit of reduction in diameter here. You would think that if it were smaller, it would fit better. And I guess it is. It's a little it's further in than it was, but Oh, this is just really annoying. I'm getting little white particles on everything. See, that's how it's supposed to look. And then the rest of it just still is not, just no give in these tires anymore. Oh, did it snapped in? Okay. And that's what happens. It just snaps, right? Now I've got this tire rim, okay, that all needs to be repainted. Um, very, very carefully all around the edge. Okay. Well, it went in and now it's a mess. Yay. So there. Yay. One more. Do another one here. And the chrome part went in. Maybe I should do all the chrome parts first so I feel like I've accomplished something. Why not? Let's see. This is going to be like one of those things where everything's going along and then all of a sudden the very last one decides that it's not going to cooperate. Is that what's going to happen here? Probably. Those two went in really quite well. Nice. Nice. Right? Right. Of course, of course. Oh, no. Oh, it's going okay. Look, I got two more in. They went right in. And then this one's not. Well, it it, it gave the impression of, I was making some progress there, and then that impression turned out to be, a false impression, as I was, in fact, not making progress. Well, I did, I got 2 of them in, and then it stopped cooperating. Well, what can I say? Nothing nothing on this stream ever seems to, sometimes it just does, you know? There are some times where things just went, "Oh, I didn't think that was gonna work," and poof, it did. It was great. And then there are other times like this where 3 out of 4 go together really well, and then the last one just isn't happening, and I don't wanna mess around with, I don't want to, damage the chrome. Jeez. I mean, there's one thing with the black wheel, I can, you know, it just feels like there's kind of like a raised bit here that I'm trying to scrape away. What can I say other than that? This is just really surprisingly frustrating. really close. What I'm doing is succeeding in messing up the chrome on the edge here. So in this case, the only solution, unfortunately, is to try to make the inside of the tire larger. It's like right in here. Sorry for going quiet. I'm just, I can't say the words I really want to say right now and not lose our PG rating. Well, I thought, I thought putting these wheels into the tires would just be, it'd be kind of a relaxing thing to do, not really painting, but nothing that would be, terribly. I could do something and really mess it up. But it has turned out definitely not to be that case. This has turned out to be just an extremely difficult, frustrating thing. At this point, I think it would be better if the tire just split. Using the paper towel so my fingernail doesn't keep cutting into the chrome. there. A combination of pushing and pulling. That was not fun. That was just unpleasant. Okay, well, this paper towel is just all full of ash. Okay, so I got one wheel done that needs some major touching up. I don't know how bad these are gonna be. Let's see. Let's see how bad these are. If these go in, maybe, I don't know, maybe one of them will go in okay. Yeah, actually not. It almost did. It clicked. That was it was just a deception. Okay. I don't know if this is some I'm just tempted to hit it. It's almost worse than if it doesn't fit at all. Okay. Well, I'm gonna do the same thing that I did on the others, is I'm going to, pile off the paint and then just plan to retouch it later. Starting to look like a real used car wheel. I'll just kind of scar it up around the edges. Yeah. There was supposed to have been someone coming at 11 o'clock. That was quite a while ago. I wonder if they did. Well, this Monday return has turned into just a real frustration. So much of the stream, I should just say, you know, frustrating nothing works with Dyson Dungeons. Because that seems to be what's happening is that on rare occasion something goes okay, but mostly it's just That didn't work. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, this is really frustrating. I wonder what can go wrong with this. That can't possibly oh, it did. It wasn't possible, but it did. This was supposed to have been like 10 minutes worth of something, just like, "Oh, okay, well, that's done now." And then I could move on to something else, but it's turned into just a huge drudge. And just, you know, having to redo stuff that turned out okay in the first place and then has to be redone and like, "Oh, those wheels look pretty good." But then no, they don't look good. Okay, well, that that worked, sort of. It's still not in as far as it needs to be. Yeah, you can see this one went in a little bit better, but, once it's repainted, it'll look okay. No, it's on the inside of the car. Okay, well, let's see how bad this one is. Yeah, same sort of thing. Really close, but not quite. Yeah, it's all the same story. Yep, all the work I did on the wheels was in vain. Actually, it was in the little workshop here. Okay, before I, get these next 2 done, I'm going to take a really quick break. I'll be back. I'm not even gonna change this. You can just look at the frustration here, and I'll be back in just a couple minutes. coffee mug back there, wisely situated back there, because the way things are going, I would say that there was probably a good 50-50 chance that I would have knocked it over and spilled it. So I'll make the assumption. This is the assumption. This is the plan. This is the hope. This is the hope for the rest of the stream, that I'll be able to get these wheels put together in the next half hour. And then I'm going to repaint the steering wheel where I'd gotten rid of the mold marks early on. I'm going to do that. And then if there's time left, I'm going to come back and touch up the wheels where they have been untouched through the process of removing the paint and some of the plastic so that they fit into the tires. So that they look like, so that they're black again. So now I'm just sliding over the edge and making it even worse. What's happening is I'm trying to keep the file, from the front of the wheel, and it's slipping because I'm getting a little impatient. But when it's slipping like that, then it just mars it even more. Well, having done two of them, I know that at least hypothetically, which means possible but not assured, it is possible um, to get these all to fit. Unfortunately, it's the back wheel, the side that doesn't show on the outside of the car. That is the problem. Unfortunately, it's just black paint, and I can touch it up. Okay, I can make it look okay. Not perfect, but adequate. Now, this is one of the downsides of working with an old model kit, is that stuff like this, like the rubber tires, just harden up, and the parts don't get. See, like if this rubber tire were still elastic, that would just slide right in. And in fact, it might be so loose that I would have to cement them together, but it's not. It's not elastic at all. So I'm just gonna have to go get some black paint right around the inside of the rim there. And I suppose this is gonna fit. Uh, oh, I don't know what happened there, but it didn't sound good. No, really close. Okay, well, at least I didn't pop the chrome part out. Yeah, so you can, you can all see with me that what's happened here is that the rubber tires are inelastic and probably actually shrank over time. That can happen. And so these wheels that are supposed to just fit in there and actually be so loose that they need to be cemented together on the inside of the tire, um, they, they don't fit at all. And so I've had to make them smaller. And for one of them to get the chrome on, I had to carve out the inside of the tire. And I've mentioned this over and over that when I was doing the Lotus Ford, the '65 Indianapolis winter, the same thing happened is that the tires, it was an old kit, from 19 I think it was made in the 1970s even. It was at least 30 years old. The rubber tires had gotten hard and the wheels didn't fit and actually fractured one of the tires, broke it, and I had to try to re-cement it. I did re-cemented it. If you look closely enough, you can still see the seam, the fracture line. I filled it in with caulk, black caulk, try to match the texture and the color of the rubber tire. But this is what happens with old kits. The other thing that happens with old kits is that the decals um, don't work anymore. They get really fragile. I was extremely lucky. I didn't realize at the time how lucky I was with the Star Trek command bridge, where there's big decals, very important ones, because all the display screens are decals. But when I built the Pogo and vertical takeoff airplane, the decals disintegrated. A couple of them just totally fell apart and became unusable, and others I was able to kind of patch together. Just small missing pieces, but still missing pieces. Um, yeah. In addition to them being relatively poorly made, a lot of misaligned, you know, molds where the two halves don't match up with each other, major seams that have to be sanded and filed off, two halves of parts that don't match. That's happened a couple of times where like there's a shell of something like a tank or even a fuselage, and the two halves don't really match. They're slightly different thicknesses, which makes getting rid of the seam between the two parts kind of challenging. You just end up with a lot of sanding and filing and and working diligently to try to not have too much distortion in the shape from the excess sanding and filing. Oh, this one's just not going in at all. When I started it, it felt like it was maybe close to fitting, but what I'm trying to do here with a little bit of success is to pull the tire away with one finger and push this in with the other. No, I definitely don't have to worry about cementing these on the inside. Definitely don't have to worry about that because these wheels are really tight. Okay, well, I've got a lot of black touching up to do here. I'm going to set these in here, clean this up a little bit. It's clean the file out. I'm going to do some painting. Paint. I'm going to repaint the rim of the steering wheel where I had filed away the mold seams earlier in the stream. I think I got them pretty well. They don't look too bad. And then I'm going to, after that, touch up the wheels where I just mangled them in order to get them to fit into the tires. I need the head magnifier. Here's the head magnifier. Oh my, did I not bring it down? I can't do this without it. Sorry, I'm off screen muttering to myself about what I can't do. And what I can't do is I can't paint this without my magnifying lens thing because I can't see it well enough. So I have to apologize for a moment here. I am actually going to to I have to go find it. Okay. I must have left it plugged in the charger upstairs. I'm going to hit the brake button and I'll be back down in as long as it takes me to find it. Oh, dear. It worked. It came back. Yay. Okay. Well, now I'm going to repaint. You can hardly tell because it's a very light color. I'm going to repaint the inside of the rim of the steering wheel where I filed away some mold seam that was showing that shouldn't be showing. And then after that, I'm going to touch up the wheels that I mangled in the effort to get them into the tires. And then I don't know. We'll see. I might show up dungeon tiles. I haven't done that in a long time. Let's use this little brush here. Now the supplemental light. Put the little cover in the middle. Find it again. Okay, I hadn't seen that before. I got some of this paint on the metallic spoke. So I have some additional touching up to do. Hmm, okay, well, I might as well just do that right away while I'm noticing it. And I need the silver paint. There it is. So I thought I had gotten the ivory paint on there really well, but I found just as I was doing this other touch up that there was a place where it's not right. You know, there. Grief. How can that even happen? Okay, it was like a little piece of dust or something. I'm going to keep these on while I. Oh, I know what I could do once I've got the silver paint out and I haven't messed up anything yet. I'm going to do just a tiny bit of detail work on this. I'll probably end up having to redo a good deal of this later after I paint the black around it. But I can get some of it done now because I had the silver paint out. Okay, well, like I said, I'm just doing this tiny little bits of silver paint to emulate chrome that I'm almost certain to have to redo after I paint the black all around it. But since I had the silver paint out, I thought I'd go ahead and at least base coat it, right? Okay, so there's that. I'm going to keep these on to do the wheels. It'll just help. It'll just help me see what I'm doing so I don't get it too much on the tires. I'm going to use this black. I'm going to take this out of here. I'm going to set it there like that. I guess I'll wash these after I paint them at some other future time. Yeah, this will take longer than it should because I'm just slow. I'm trying to get the little white parts there I scrape the paint off and get it down in the groove. And I'm also painting the rim so it doesn't, so it's all a uniform color. Using the main thing is I don't want to get paint all over the tire. Well, 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 well. So what did I get done today? Hardly anything. It took a long time to do it. Um, I got the mold seams on the steering wheel, got rid of those, repainted it, did some touch up on the steering wheel chrome part that I didn't know I had to do that I did once I looked at it through the head magnifiers. I got the wheels in the tires. That turned out to be way more of a thing than I thought it would be. Thing, or it just turned out to be much more difficult than I expected. And it ended up taking 10 times as long as it should have. But all because pretty much this is an old kit and the rubber tires had hardened and shrunk. Um, I'm getting the wheels retouched. I put some base coat silver paint on the chromed parts of the dashboard. On Wednesday, I'll be painting the dashboard. That will probably take the entire stream on Wednesday because it's fine detail, and I will have to do it more than once. Go back and forth, get it touched up correctly. What else did I do? Yeah, I took the masking off the body of the car. Yeah, and there's some problems with that will need to be corrected. What's going on with the brush here? Mhm. It's a very fine tip brush. And what happens is because there's such tiny bits of paint on it, they start to dry really quickly. And then the tip of the brush becomes unusable. See a lot more of that on Wednesday when I start painting the dashboard. The tiny, tiny little dots of paint or big dots of paint that need to go in very, very tiny areas. Get some of the plastic dust off of this before painting it. Oh yeah, and then I'm gonna put the wash on the steering wheel to make it look like wood, and then make a decision about whether to try to paint the little screw heads that are actually molded, highly detailed, molded in just the way they should be. Painting those, it'd be nice if I could, but if it messes up and I've got a base coated with a wash on its surface, fixing that becomes extremely difficult. So I think kind of unfortunately or not, that little bit of detail is going to be left undone. The only way I could possibly do it, and maybe I'll try, I don't know, is with the chalk pencil that I've got. And they wouldn't look silver, but they would look white. Yeah, I'm gonna try that. Because if that doesn't work, I can just wash it off. It's just chalk. Kind of a low risk way of trying to do some detail that would otherwise for me be impossible. Okay, well, these are salvaged. I'm gonna just say that. They're gonna be okay. Didn't Not perfect, but at least they're okay. What I am going well here, let me bring the box over. You can see all the little parts. There's a lot of little parts here. There's door handles in here, um, radiator hoses, stick shift levers, steering columns. The interior here is actually really close to being ready to be put together. Once I finish the dashboard and the steering wheel, see what's going on. The dashboard and the steering wheel. This will actually it'll end up looking better than that. Okay. Um, the thing in here is I still need to do the door handles and the window cranks, and that requires extremely fine detail painting um, that I can't do at the end of the stream. But I've been putting it off for weeks and weeks now, and it just needs to be done. So that's what I'm going to try to do. Now, this you look at this and it looks like there should be chrome trim around some of this stuff, but I've looked at pictures of the interior and it just doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it's chromed. It's just the way the trim is. So I'm not going to do that. The uh, the pedals here you can't see because it's all black on black. Yeah, you really can't see them at all. The pedals are supposed to have a chrome edge around them, and I am going to try to do that. So on Wednesday, um, I have to do these, so I'm gonna get them done, I guess, one way or the other, is the door handles and the window cranks. Fortunately, they're inside of this kind of, like, rectangular inset, and so if I mess up, I can touch it up with a brush-on paint, and if it's a slightly different color or slightly different glossiness, it'll be inside of that rectangular area, so it won't really show. So then once I get those done, somehow, I'll attach the door handles. They go here. They're just little bits of plastic. They go on that, and put the seats in, and put the stick shift on. This thing goes on here somewhere. I guess like this. Oh, way up here. Okay. There's little slots for it to go in. This thing goes in here like that. So once this is done, I can do that. Attach that after the seats are in and after the stick shift is in. Well, yeah, parts. So, yeah, on Wednesday, I'm going to be doing a bunch of little detail painting, I guess. Tiny little detail painting. Um, and some washing on the steering wheel, and I hope that comes out okay. But door handles, dashboard, stick shift, this that part of the dashboard goes in this part of the dashboard. Um, Steering column. Yeah, it'll be kind of interesting to see how that goes. I'm getting a paper towel to cover these up in vain. I keep saying in vain, but I'm not. I'm in the basement, but ineffectively, I keep covering those up to try to keep the dust out. After I clean this brush, what I'm going to do, I haven't done this in a while, is I'm going to show off dungeon tiles because this stream is all about Dice and Dungeons, which is all about the Dungeons and Dragons show that Dice and Dungeons puts on and streams on Twitch on 3 Sundays a month. And all of the prior episodes, excuse me, are available on YouTube, where you can listen to them as a podcast. And you need to do that because it's an amazing show. And this stream started because we produce our own minifigs and dungeon tiles for use on the show. And they are really pretty amazing things. Go down to a bunch of them here. And I got a space. So these are dungeon tiles that we produce here. And then this is how they come out. Okay, they're PLA plastic. They're black like that. Move the camera up so you can see. And then they're hand painted. These are stone, rough stone. Okay. And you can see the way these work is that there's magnets, little ball magnets in the corners, and they stick to each other and then come apart pretty easily and then stick to each other and then stick to each other and like that. So you don't need a special metallic platform or anything, okay? Because they don't stick to the platform, they stick to each other, and you can arrange them in many cool different ways. And these are like these. These required quite a lot of painting, so that they come out with the black, PLA, and then they're primed, and then they're base coated brown, and then they're washed to make it look like wood and bring out the wood grain, which is printed in, and then the stucco panels are painted. These have the same features like that. Okay. Among the many things our dungeon tiles do is they have operating doors. This is an early version. It's pin hinged, and you can see where the pins go in on the top, but I'm going to show you what our DM has done to make them even more amazing. So these dungeon tiles are really cool, and they show up on the show from time to time when we get into a building or a castle or a keep or something like that. And then our DM pulls out a whole bunch of these and makes a set, and then takes them apart and puts them away again. So these are pretty cool because the wall and the base are printed as one piece. Okay, so there's no seam. Some of the really early versions, the wall and the base were separate, and we had to epoxy them together. But that led to all sorts of issues of them not always being like at a perfect 90-degree angle, or you know, absolutely straight on they're painted on the back too, by the way, so you can have an inside of the building and outside of the building. So just to show you the evolution of this, um, not only were the original ones a separate wall and floor, but for a long time, the magnets went in and then a base went on the bottom like this. You can see the little plastic base that holds the magnets in. But now we have a new printer, a new magic printer that will stop printing. The ball magnets go in and then it finishes printing. And so there's no plate anymore. It's one solid piece. Nothing can fall apart. The other innovation, and this was pretty impressive, was you can see here that the door lintel, the top here, is a separate piece. The door goes on, the pin goes in, the door goes on, and then this goes over the top to seal it in. Look, it's not there anymore. So again, this thing was set up so that it can stop printing at a certain point. Um, and then the pins go in and then it finishes printing so that here's one where the lintel is still cemented in. Okay, you can see the little lines there, but now it's not. It's really nicely finished. I mean, I have to say that these are pretty amazing. The other thing, and this is also pretty amazing, is that when a PLA printer is printing over nothing, okay, when it's printing over air, you get these little strings because there's no support underneath it. And those can, we'd have to file or sand those off, but somehow or other, and I don't know what the magic is. Look, they're not there anymore. It's just an absolute smooth surface, which you can't really see because it's black on black, but you can kind of see the difference here, okay, where that's kind of ragged and this isn't anymore. And so the new 3D printer that we've received has really, I mean, these are just beautifully done. I just have to say they are. There's no overhanging little strings. There's no seams on the bottom or the top anywhere. And they can still be hand painted, of course. They'd be primed and painted, and they would end up looking like these other tiles. The overhang bit, okay, shows up too in these arched windows. You can kind of see it here where there's just PLA kind of hanging down, but now there isn't anymore. Okay, perfectly smooth surface on the inside, but still one solid piece. And of course, these have the magnets in them so that they can all be rearranged like that. So I have to say that our dungeon tiles are actually just pretty amazing pieces of work. And that's how this stream all started, is making them go from like this to that to that. Okay. Not like we go from this to this, but from this to wood, or from stone to rough stone. This is finished stone. And there's all sorts of other features too, like we have inside corners, outside corners. Um, you can see that this is a wooden door with straps on it. Okay. And this is a metal door with framing on it. We have sigils that can be painted, that can be printed directly onto the plastic. And there's one of those over there somewhere that I could show you, but I can't reach it without knocking something over. um, rounded corners, thrones, all sorts of scatter stuff that goes on these things to make them look really pretty amazing. I just wanted to explain why this stream exists at all. And when we don't have dungeon tiles to paint for the show, which we haven't in a while, because we've got all we need, or we don't have minifigs to paint for the show, which we haven't for a while because we got all I need. I've been building models. That's why I'm working on this because it's another one of the models. So when I come back on Wednesday, I'll be working on the interior of the car, like I showed you the dashboard, the steering wheel, the hand cranks, the little pedals, that kind of stuff. Try to make the interior of the car look kind of like this, kind of anyway. Not going to look exactly like this because I just can't get that level of detail onto the plastic parts that I've been given. But I will do my best to make it look pretty nice. Pretty nice. Thanks, everybody. Yep. Sorry for being away without an announcement last week, but we had a chance to do that trip and so took it. But I'll be around Wednesday, assuming everything's okay. Yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday at more or less 10. And if everything's running and showing and working, then I'll continue doing more stuff on the car here. Mutter, mutter, mutter. That was kind of incoherent, wasn't it? But that's how things get near the end of the stream. I will be back. See you then.